Hello everyone, welcome to this month's Power Hour. It's March 29th, I think. Yes, March 29th. It's a rainy day here in Colorado, but we're excited to present another Power Hour to everybody. This month we're talking about template styles and libraries. Super exciting topic, you can tell by the sounds of it. So I hope we keep you on the edge of your seat today. So getting into slides, presenters today. So myself, Riley Smith, product management intern with the Trimble Business Center Group based out of Westminster, Colorado. And with me today, I have Sophie Croteau. Maybe you want to introduce yourself, Sophie?
I'm a QA tester for the TBC team here in Colorado. I'm also an intern working for the TBC team.
Yes, Sophie is our bug exterminator with the TBC software, so that's a good title to have. And today we're excited to have a special guest with us presenting today, and that is Joe Hicks. Maybe you want to also introduce yourself, Joe?
Hi, my name is Joe Hicks. I'm the owner of Survey Program Solutions. It's a consulting business helping land surveying companies with all types of standards and procedures for survey projects. I'm a California licensed surveyor, PMP certified, experience in all types of survey projects from transportation to major construction and infrastructure projects.
So I noticed you have your company there, Survey Program Solutions. Maybe just a quick couple sentences of what your company is all about.
Yeah, so what we do is we provide training and procedures and templates for Civil 3D and Trimble products primarily. A lot of process improvement and procedures for all types of survey deliverables.
Perfect. So maybe we can talk about that a little more as we get to the presentation. Thanks. I just want to say thanks for Joe and Sophie for doing this Power Hour this month. The topic sounds a little dry, but it's actually a lot more exciting than you think. So agenda today, first we'll talk about what it is. Why is it not that dry, like I said? The benefits of going through this type of setup, of getting your library, your styles, your templates, all that prepped in TBC, and how that can really streamline your workflow. And then diving into the demonstration, both Sophie and Joe are going to present today and go over some really cool things within TBC and how you can get that streamlined field-to-finish workflow. And then afterwards, we'll have a little bit of information for any of you who are interested in some videos or tutorials or extra resource information that might be useful to you, as well a little question and answer session at the end. And through the whole presentation, feel free to go into the chat window and ask any questions that you have, and the three of us will answer them as they come, and hopefully we can provide you some good feedback. So we'll dive right into it. I'll try not to talk too much. I know people want to see the demonstration, but we'll have a little bit of intro by myself here to really understand what we're talking about today. So really the purpose of setting up TBC or any survey workflow in the office is to get it done right with efficiency. I mean, that's the first and foremost rule of getting out there, getting the survey done, and coming back into the office and finishing it in the fastest time possible, but also with that 100% accuracy. So utilizing templates, styles, and libraries really helps to centralize and standardize workflows, especially if you're looking at a mid to large organization where you need to have everyone within your group performing the same type of workflows with the same type of standards. Well, I like this kind of saying, field to finish with the fewest clicks. So once you have these templates and the standardization set up, it really does help you get from field to finish with the fewest clicks. There's less setup time involved and less processing involved because you already have these templates generated. And in the end, that sets yourself up for success. So a few little corny sayings there, but I think they hit home. So some benefits. Well, everything you need in one template. So we have TBC templates. We get feature coding information, the coordinate system information, processing settings, styles, layers, as well as drafting templates. All of that encompassed in one file, essentially, and be able to use that and share it across an organization and benefit from it, not with just one, let's say one desktop computer, but all of them within your company. And it is an investment. We have to understand that there is an initial investment to set up, whether it's the feature code library, the drafting styles, the layers, anything like that, but it's a small investment in the terms of the long-term savings that you're going to get from having that standardization and getting all of those things set up and ready to go. And really, in the end, it cuts the cost, and as a business, that's one of your big driving factors. So workflow, really simple. You go from whether it's local, national standards, client, company policies, depending on who you're working for and the projects, or existing templates, CAD templates you may have. You take all that, and in TBC, you create your template. So you use things like the feature library, the styles, layers, layouts, which in TBC we call sheet views for drafting and plotting, and get all of that, encompass it in one template, and then share it across your organization. And really, in the end, you're getting that field to finish with ease. So you're coming from that point where everything was so difficult to a nice, easy, relaxing workflow. So, I mean, I've talked long enough. Hopefully went through that quick enough as well. So we're going to kick it off to the exciting part of this and give it to Sophie to really dive into how we set up templates, libraries, and styles within TBC.
All right. So reason why we're doing this and what Riley was introducing is that the reason why this is important is that you've got multiple steps that you need to take to set up your project and prepare yourself to actually import your data and play around with it. But there are multiple steps that you can take and you only need to do it once. So to get started, what I'm going to do is to say I'm doing a survey-specific workflow, and I don't need my machine control tab and the corridor tab or the GIS tab. So the way that this works is that you can customize your ribbon by right-clicking on the ribbon itself. You have, and I'll click the Customize ribbon, which brings up the command that you also have access to the Quick Access toolbar, which on the left side you have all of the commands that are available in TBC, and on the right side you have the small commands that show up at the top left here that gives you quick access. So say, I don't use it personally all that much, but say you have certain commands that you use very often, you can put it up there just so that you don't have to go through the command pane to search it up again, and you can just have quick access to it. Now in the Customize Ribbon tab, on the left side again, you have all of the commands that you have available in TBC. On the right side, you have all the different tabs that you have available. So say for my topographic or my survey workflow, I don't need my GIS tab, so I can just take it away. I don't need my corridor tab. I don't need my machine control tab. And so I just take those away. And what I'll do is I'll just click OK. And you pay attention to the tabs up here. It'll take it away shortly. Slowly but surely. There we go. Okay, so the tabs that I don't want, I no longer have. And now the thing that can be useful is that if you've got several different types of projects that you work with, so you've got a specific cadastral survey plan that you do, you've got a specific workflow with different commands that you use a lot, you can save that ribbon and you can import it into your project again. So I've gone to my Project Explorer and I'll bring up this TBC tab layout. It's a binary format file, so it brings it in. Now with this ribbon, I've customized the tab names, and within the tabs themselves, they will have different kinds of commands. So I've taken out a lot of commands that I just don't need for my workflow. So you can notice that I've made it specific to what I want to do, and I have nothing, no excess that I don't need. So I'm going to go back to the Customize Ribbon tab and just reset back to the original the original tab setup that TBC gives you, and I'm just going to go back and delete the corridor and the GIS corridor.
So I guess one of the useful things I think this is really cool because I mean, I've heard it a lot of time from users. Let's say you, like Sophie is showing here, you don't do corridor work or you don't do GIS work. There's a lot of commands in TBC now, and we're only going to add more and more into the future. So it's really important that if you have specific workflows that you can use what she's showing here, this customized ribbon, to just have the necessary commands and kind of streamline it. So I mean, I could have everything on one ribbon if I wanted, and in order I could click button to button to button.
Yeah, no, Riley, that's essentially the point of just taking out all the excess commands that you just don't need. So the following thing that I want to set up for my projects is I'll go to my project settings and bring up the project settings. This is essentially where you can have all your coordinate information, your error information, units. You guys all know about this. For my template, what can be useful is that if you've got a lot of recurring projects in certain areas, or you're always going back to this one site that you've set up your own local site, your own coordinate system, you can put this information into your project, and you already have that information set up when you open a new project. You don't have to go through the process of entering in all your site information. So for here, I'm going to go to my feature code processing, and I'm going to attach my global features FXL. This is my feature code library, and I'm already attaching it to my project so that whenever I open up the project again, all I need to do is click a button, process my features, because the project already has access to the feature code library, so it's one less thing for them to do. Now, next thing on my list is to go to the project options. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my project management, and I'm going to set up where I want all of my projects to end up. So I'm going to go to my Power Hour folder, and I'm going to click OK. This is where I want all of my projects to end up. The next thing that I want to do is I want to set up my external services profile. So this is essentially, I've got it connected to my Trimble Connect profile so that I save all my projects and I can just export it super easy to Trimble Connect so that I can share it with other people. It's one less thing that I need to do when I open my project. So actually, I exited out of that too quickly. I'm going to bring up the options again. Another thing that's great as well about the options is that using different TBC projects, you can import options that you've already set up in a different project so that you can just save that and transfer it to a new project fairly easily.
Ideally for networking for different across different machines.
Okay, yeah, definitely. And then next thing that we can do with the templates, the thing that's really good is you can already set up your layer information. So I'm going to bring up the layer manager and see I've already got all of these layers already set up. Now, one thing that I can do is that I can import layers that I've already set up in a different project and just bring it in. So here I have my power.layer file, so I'm just going to import it into my project.
Okay. So that's another thing to note too, is we have all these random little files that we import and export into TBC, and they all have interesting file extensions. So things like .layer, we kind of tried to make it so it's pretty intuitive, and we don't have like .xfts or something like that. It's just a straightforward name, and you'll see those throughout Sophie's presentation.
One thing that's great about the Layer Manager too is that for you AutoCAD users, if you've already got a bunch of layers that you've already set up in AutoCAD and you want to transfer it into TBC, when you import your DWG file or DWT file into TBC, it transfers in that layer information, and then you have access to all of those layers in the Layer Manager here. So next thing that I'm going to get started on is all the different styles. So within a company, in this drafting tab, you have all these different text styles, label styles that you have access to in TBC. Within a company, you have different standards or different fonts that you're asked to use for reports and labeling. So this is a way that you can already set up those, what's the word, recommendations, the standards.
Settings, yeah.
Yeah.
User settings.
Yeah,
options.
user settings that your company or your team expects you to use. So first thing that you can go through is the text style here. On the left side, you can have all your new text styles. This will just, on the right side, it just explains what it is. So I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to call it Sophie's Style because I'm a very stylish person. I'm going to just create it to be bold. I'm not very particular about what I want, and I'm going to click OK. I'm going to add a text into my screen. I'm going to call it Power Hour. And then, come on, there we go. And then it looks like that. Next thing that I can do is that I'll bring up my label style manager, which this has to do with the label styles that you have for your lines, your points, your polygons. You can create it however you wish. For these line styles, I'm going to create a new one. I will call it Sophie Style again. Is that an underscore just for changes? Then I'm going to use my Sophie Style for the text style that I already identified. And then I'm just going to add a few terms. There we go, the line length. And the line azimuth we're going to go with. It's going to go 2 above. There we go. And this is how it looks for my personalized label style. Another thing that's really nice as well is that you've probably, if you've been a TBC user for a while, you've already got your label styles set up, so you can just import it into your system and not have to go through the process of redoing them all over again. I'm going to click OK. Next thing that I've got is the Label Table Style Manager. So it's essentially just an extension of the Label Style Manager. It's just when you've got multiple entities in your plan view, in your project, this has to do with the table that just organizes it all, or organizes it in like a manner that logical manner. So
English is a tough language.
So you've got your line styles, point styles, polygon styles. It's just an extension of the label style manager. So I'm going to click OK. Then the next one, which I've been working with TBC for quite a bit, and I wasn't aware that this was it, so I'm going to show it to you. So we've got the Dimension Style Manager, which is essentially what the screen is here. You just put in dimensions. In the lines and arrows, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to a blanket arrow. And then I'm going to bring up the text, and I'm going to use my Sophie Style for my text style. In the Dimension Style Manager, you can use the project settings, or you can change the units of what you want to be particular, and then you've got your position. So I'm going to click OK.
It's funny that you mentioned the fact of not knowing about it. Every time I have somebody, or we have somebody present on these power hours, they usually find like one new command in TBC, or like one like tip and trick. And it's pretty interesting. So I hope the rest of you are finding these little cool new things in TBC that you didn't know about before.
Yeah, so what I've just done is I've just inserted 2 CAD points into the plan view here, and I'm going to go back to the drafting tab, and I will insert a linear dimension. So I've got the first point, my second point, and there we go. There's my dimension. And this is a text style that I created earlier. So that's already set up and all taken care of.
So are these styles dynamic? So if we go in and edit the style, will it update everywhere that style is used? Currently?
Sorry,
actually
repeat the question. Can you
Are they-
edit dynamics?
Yeah, so if I go and edit this style, will it update everywhere that
Yes,
style is being used?
that is correct. Yeah, so all the different styles, like text and labels and layers and all that, it's all dynamic. So if I have a style called, let's say, Sophie style for text, and I update the height or the bold or whatever it may be, that'll update all the text objects that are Sophie's text style kind of thing.
All right, cool.
Sweet. Good question. Good question.
Thanks, Riley. Something to mention is that what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select everything in my screen and I'm going to delete it. And the reason because is that I want to save this project as a template, and if I didn't delete what was currently in the plan view, then it would save it to my template, and whenever I would create a new project with this template, that data would come with the project itself. So I want to keep it clean. I don't want to have those entities in my new templates. So next thing that I'm going to mention is the feature definition manager. Since earlier, while I was in the project settings, I went to feature code processing, I attached my feature code library to my project. I don't need to attach it again, which is which is like one less step that you need to take when you open up your new project. Now, the feature definition manager is a separate entity from TBC. So if I open up my my feature definition manager, I open my global features FXL so that I can edit it. Edits that you create in to this file won't be dynamically changed to TBC. So what will happen is that you change your FXL in the feature definition manager, and then you'll need to go back into TBC. This is a little bit tedious, but it's the way that the softwares interact with each other. You need to delete your global features.fxl, and then you need to go back to your project settings and reattach your feature definition file. Since you'll already have the address, all you need to do is just click OK, and then it will replace the file right away.
Okay. I'll add, the reasoning for that is it creates a local copy of the FXL file in your project folder when you create the project. So right now you've got an unnamed project that has a local copy of it.
Okay.
Look at that, another tip.
The reasoning behind it all. So the final thing I have from talking about I've got all of my different text styles, label styles already set up in my project. The final thing that I have is like the entire point of using TBC is to have a final deliverable. So you want to end up plotting something. TBC, when you install it, you get your you're provided several different example drafting templates, so different sheet sizes, sheet meters that you can import into your TBC so that you can customize it to what you want. Another thing as well is that you can create your own sheet sets, which for you AutoCAD users is your layout view.
Yeah, it's a collection of layouts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a sheet sets is basically equivalent to layout view in AutoCAD. So you can just create whatever you'd like, and what it ends up looking like is I've got this. It ends up being a VCL project, or they're VCL files.
VCL files, yeah. Similar to kind of what, if you're an existing CAD user, it's similar in some ways to a DWT file.
Yeah.
It's essentially like a template file.
Yeah. So here I've got the VCL files that were created within TBC, which is great. But say for this project, I had already set up my layout views or sheet views or whatever your final thing that you want it to look like in AutoCAD. So I want to end up using this in my project. I want it saved in my template. So say that I have this drafting template that I want to end up having in my template that I'm going to save. So what I need to do is I'm going to bring up my Project Explorer. I will find my drafting example.dwt.
So just a quick question, Sophie, just for my clarification.
Yeah.
A DWT file, so this was a drafting template you'd set up in AutoCAD?
Yep.
Okay. And you're just dragging and dropping that into TBC to create a drafting template in TBC?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The information that I want is the sheet that was the layouts that was already created in AutoCAD, but I want to have access to it in TBC.
All right, gotcha.
So I just look through my plan sets. I look at this 24 by 36. Click New Sheet View, and there you go. I already have access to the layout view that was created in AutoCAD. Now, one of the things is that I'd mentioned earlier from the layer manager is that when I imported my DWT file, I imported all of these layers that were attached to this file. So while importing the sheet, I have access to all of the layers that I wanted to have access to as well.
Quickly, just because the question was asked by Brandon, Sophie, where can Brandon find the layer manager in TBC?
The layer manager, one thing that you can do is that if you're struggling to find the commands, or you're like looking around quite a bit, you can press F12, which brings up the command pane, and you can just click layer manager. You can spell out layer manager. Another place as well that you can find it is in the home tab. It's under layers, and you can find the layer manager there.
Also on the CAD ribbon, as well as where most of the manager buttons are.
Then you've got another tab for layers, and you've got the layers under the CAD tab.
Perfect.
All right, so I have my drafting template, I have my feature code library, and actually, another thing to mention, when I imported my DWT file, in AutoCAD, there was data inside of there was data in AutoCAD. So I'm just going to click Control-A to select everything and Control-D to delete everything because I want my project to be clean. So now that I have everything in my template, I'm going to go to my file and I'm going to click Save Project as Template. Now I will call this Sophie's Choice. For my template name, I will save this. And then I'm going to go back. And what I can do is, I can do it from here. Oh, no. There we go. I'm going to go to File in a different project. I will click New. I will select Sophie's Choice again. Click OK. And then I have everything that I already created. I have access to the plan sets that I imported with, that I imported from the DWT file. I have access to my feature code library. I can find the layer manager, and I still have access to all the layers that I already defined earlier. So I can just get started and import my data right away.
Yeah, so that's perfect. I guess this is a good time to answer a couple questions. I did want to provide a little clarification. I know the drafting part of TBC seems a little bit daunting to some people when they first look at it because in some ways it's different than other software packages you might be used to. But there is a lot of similarities, like Sophie was explaining. A concept of layout view in CAD is our concept of sheet view. A concept of Viewport, thank you, is a concept of DynaView in TBC. Same operations, essentially just different names. So I do want to stress, if anybody wants to find out some more information on especially the drafting functionality in TBC, there is a previous Power Hour that you can find on Trimble Geospatial webinars that was done last year, I think in June. And you can view that webinar, and it's a good one for really diving into all the in-depth parts of setting up a drafting template and all that other information. A good time to answer questions, though, I think right now. We are going to throw up a poll, so feel free to answer that while we here answer some questions. So, okay, guys, any of these questions standing out to you? So, Abdul asked, can I import CAD file and change coordinate system and export it to GIS or CAD. So I think what you're getting at there is if I import a CAD file into TBC and I change the coordinate system, does it update the CAD file to the coordinate system?
Like an automatic translation.
Yeah, automatic translation. Do either of you can answer that question?
I have not attempted to do that. I would anticipate you would be able to in TBC, although I have not tried that.
I think you can, but do you want to?
Yes, typically. So yeah, there's times where it could be useful to do that, especially if the CAD file was given to you from a designer, and maybe they were working in one system and you're working in another. So you should be able to do that, Abdul. That's the best answer I give you. Try it out, and if there is any issues, you can let me know. My contact information was at the start of this presentation, but the intent is to be able to do that. Another method of transforming that CAD file from one system to another is we do have what's called a transform. I believe it's called transform command in TBC. Maybe show where that is. And you can use that to transform CAD objects from a system to another. If you have, let's say, common points in a system, and you know not necessarily that one, but the transform command.
Okay, so that'll be an edit, right?
It's on the far left there.
Yeah, there we go.
So that will do move or translate, rotate, and scale the 7 parameter for you. So that's there. So that's one option as well for getting CAD work to change to another system. Mike asked another good question. If you don't have an existing FXL file, which is the feature code library, can you import feature codes from another source? That's a good one.
You want me to take that one?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
There are a couple methods. If you're using Excel, you can copy and paste from CAD into Excel and then use a custom import for a feature definition manager. Let you import a CSV file with setup of the columns that you want to include. There's also third-party software that does it that you can contact me about outside of this. But, there are ways to do that. The other one that Craig Wilson asked there at the bottom, line styles do import when you drag and drop a drawing file. There are some slight differences in scaling setup of those line types, I've noticed. So you do have to change line type scales in TBC right now to get them to look the same as they do in Civil 3D. But essentially, it is possible. On the line style subject, it's a little different between Autodesk and TBC how we handle line styles. I guess the technical way to explain it is we handle a 2-dimensional line style, but it's 1-dimensional in AutoCAD. So there is some differences there, depending on how the line style is set up. A lot of times they won't come across in the TBC because of that difference in how the technicalities of how it's set up. And what's actually included in the line type itself. Exactly, yeah. So in a lot of the simplistic cases, yes, they'll come across, but different types, especially if you have symbols and things like that, they generally don't come across that well. Text comes across pretty well, but symbols. So I guess it'd be a good time. We'll give Sophie and Joe here a quick little break and have a sip of coffee or whatever. We'll launch a poll. We haven't already. We did? Good. I'm not paying attention, obviously. All right, so the poll is launched. Maybe one more question. There was another good one that came up. I'd lost it. So MicroStation and Esri import, I don't know about. Yeah, the MicroStation is an interesting one. Richard asked, the question specifically was, is there a way to bring in MicroStation sheet templates, similar to what Sophie just showed with the AutoCAD template? And honestly, I don't know, Richard, if we can or not. That's a good question. We can import .dgn files from MicroStation. Whether or not the sheet layouts come with it, that's actually something I should look up myself and clarify if we have that functionality or not. So good question, and let me maybe reach out to me, or I'll reach back out to you with an answer on that. And then another quick question on the same kind of line from Brannon about is there a way to export from TBC to MicroStation? Right now we do not perform any DGN exports or any other file exports to MicroStation, but that is something that we've considered, and we would like to kind of go that route in the future. And it'd be good to hear from you, Brandon. Maybe you can also send me an email
about maybe your typical workflow and the type of data that you would like to export from TBC to MicroStation. So that's enough questions for now. Maybe we'll get into some more exciting things. So I'll let Joe take over and do some demonstration here, and we'll continue to answer some questions as they come.
All right. Let me accept this.
And also, if there's any technical issues, if you can't see the screen or hear us, feel free to put that in the chat just so we know. But we hope there's no technical issues.
So what I want to show is basically the functionality of Trimble Business Center for field to finish and its similarity with Civil 3D, and how you can actually use TBC to do a complete field to finish process with the tools that have been added in the last couple releases. What I'll do is basically take the things that Sophie has shown you and apply them to a real world field to finish product, at least an overview of it. So what I have up on the screen here is the options dialog box that she covered previously. I've already set up my own import of an options user profile that set up my file locations. If you had external services like Trimble Connect and things like that would also be included here. So it is worthwhile setting up these things so you can load them onto new machines, or if you go to a new office or a new place and lose any of your software, all of those things are immediately set up as soon as you import a profile. So I've already got mine loaded here. It changed my file location for my template, a couple other small things. All of those same things are the same things you would set up in your options dialog box in Civil 3D. Same concept, you can export out, import. So you have the same functionality in TBC. Next thing I'll cover is actual project settings. So since I have my project set up, or my template set up as the default, if I create a new project, this template was created with my Civil 3D template. So it imported, what's been imported is my Civil 3D drawing and my feature code library that goes with it for the field to finish process, along with some sheet sets that would be used for planned production and creating your final PDF products. We won't get into those, but essentially it would give you all the tools that you would need to make the final product. We'll go into project settings here and show what has been set for that. So you would set up basically all your user information and company information, coordinate systems. If you had control files for a specific project, you should include those. Anything that's going to be maintained for the legacy of that project or to be useful in creating new project files or daily processing files, you should include. And that includes, your setup of your plan view, how you want things to look. Mine, I went through and turned off the grid lines, so it looks more like CAD. I don't see any grid lines. But you can change all of those settings and import, export, well, I should say not import, export, but save those in your template file, and then as you use those templates, they're already preset. So mine's been set up here. It's got my feature code library already attached to it and all my general information. So let's see what else I was going to show. I did want to show, I guess, how the layer manager and the styles all came across as well, just to kind of complement what Sophie did here. So layer manager it's still got the stock layers in here, but it brought all of my Civil 3D layers across as well with line types on, I believe, all of them. I don't have any special symbols or anything in any of my line types. They're all lettering, so I believe they all came across fine. Colors, I've had a few issues with that, so be wary of that. I think that's being worked on right now.
Yeah, but just to touch on that, that was an issue, and I have to thank Joe right now because he's been a part of our beta group and helped us on the TBC side kind of pull out some of these issues that we have in the import-export with Autodesk especially, and things like the color table were one of them. We're having issues with transferring the color table between.
Yeah, the actual layered color coming across. And we've also talked about actually using color tables for plotting. That potentially is something they'll work on, as opposed to line weights being set on the actual lines. So that's set up. You have textiles that came across for all the different textiles that were preset. Do they have anything else on there? Line types, I showed you that, textiles, and the layouts. So all those things that were included in your Civil 3D template come across. Things that don't come across are actual like point styles and label styles, and that's also a work in progress. So once you have all your feature code library set to match Civil 3D, so you would have basically your point feature codes, your line feature codes, and line control codes would be matching your description keys, figure prefix library, and line work code set from Civil 3D. Then you'll be able to process line work and symbology as soon as you start a new project. So those codes, can be set up in feature definition manually, like we talked about, or through custom imports, some other outside options as well. So I will go ahead and just show a sample here of a couple different real-world scenarios. So first of all is just a line coding sample here. And it really just identifies the different methods that you can use to collect field data and have it processed automatically in Trimble Business Center like you would in Civil. And that pop-up right there of autosave is one of the settings that you save in your options.
Yeah.
Which
saved me a few times.
Which is a good thing to have set up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just a sample of some of the things you can do with the line coding in TBC, some 1, 2, and 3-point circles, rectangles, and I will bring up my other Civil 3D here to show the actual comparison. So this is a similar collection. Obviously, the field collection is slightly different because the line control codes are slightly different from one product to the other, but as long as you know your end product and your intent, then you can collect it appropriately.
So I'm sure everybody is thinking there's a couple of rectangles that aren't up there, a couple, call them rectangles, polygons. So is that due to the field collection method? Like you're saying the codes are slightly different?
It is partially due to the field collection method and partially due to the available line control codes. Okay. There are a couple of additional codes in Civil, so you can use them. You can still enter them in your data collector as you would. They just process slightly different in TBC, and some of those are also being looked at. Essentially, it's an extend command and a right turn command and a recall that are different. Second sample I'll show you here is actually just a line, survey lines and points, just a sample of what you could be doing for Civil 3D and for TBC. So I'll just start a new one here. That's one of the really nice things I would add about TBC is it's the speed at which you can actually start a new project, import data, and process it is actually substantially faster than what you would do in Civil. A lot less steps. Especially once you've fallen through what Sophie's showing and created a template, right? Exactly. You're all ready to go. So what I'm importing here is just a symbol file and a line string file, just to show a sample of potentially what you could be doing. And once again, it'll ask you for both files. And then after you import, all you have to do is process feature codes again. And everything should already be set up for processing. So what we have here is essentially the same thing you have in Civil 3D, all of your symbols and line types and lines drafted just by processing feature codes. I guess I mentioned that it looks like there's a line or two missing there in TBC. Is maybe that field collection method again, or is that That's actually, yeah, it's more of a software difference. Line control codes in TBC are not set up currently to have symbols on them. The functionality is slightly different. They're connected to points in Civil 3D, and they're connected to lines.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. So I guess clarification on that. I don't want to take too much time, but the lines in TBC, you can have a line style associated with it that has symbols associated with the line style, essentially, so you can draw a symbol on the line and have that. But the points themselves, when using a line code, will not have a symbol. And the only way to do that is for having a point symbol code as well. So if you do want specific symbols on those points, you can set up a point symbol code and use that as well. So it's kind of a double coding way, or a double coding process to get that.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Just a couple of quick questions, Joe, before you move on.
Yep.
Can TBC process a list of points as opposed to a whole file? That was asked from Trevor. Yeah, so I think what Trevor's asking is if, let's say you import a CSV with 100 points, can I just select 50 of those and process? And currently in TBC, I'll answer this one, Trevor, I guess. Currently you cannot just select individual points. You can select individual files. So if you have several job files or several CSV files in the same project, or if you've created CAD points, or if you've created points within TBC, you can select those as separate entities to process, but not individual points in a file.
That might be a good feature to add to process by point group.
Yeah,
you may want to reprocess all of one particular code or something.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. Let's continue on.
Really, so the third sample I'll bring up here is just a real-world collection of field data, large site, about 3,500 points. So here in Civil 3D is what you will end up with as well.
Just a quick question. Is anyone having issues with the sound? I know Mike said he lost the sound, so is everyone else able to hear us loud and clear? Please put in the chat window if you are. Perfect. Got a couple confirmations. So, yeah, continue, Joe.
All right, so here's a large data set. I'll process feature codes. This one does take it a couple seconds, but it's much faster than processing Civil 3D, and it's a lot less clunky once you get large data sets too. So if you're looking at really large surface files or cross sections or profiles, the engine in TBC is much more efficient at dealing with that.
So this looks like a pretty big file too, right?
Yeah, and as you'll see here, this was collected with the intention of processing in Civil 3D. So let me turn off these points here, kind of give you an overview. So there are some differences. Rectangles are collected differently. So a lot of these lines that you see here, there's not really too many of them. They're one line that goes across to a bunch of different places. And had it been collected with the intention of processing in TBC, it wouldn't have done that. But you can still see essentially the full effect. You can get a fully automated line drafting system in TBC and end up with the same product that you have for Civil 3D.
I guess my personal question to you, Joe, this wasn't necessarily one that was brought up, but being a TBC and a Civil 3D user, where have you used TBC or TBC in conjunction with Civil 3D where it's been really useful for you? Is there some specific processes, or is it just general? Like why do you find it more efficient or as a useful software?
Well, I think the biggest problem in Civil 3D is really its software or its processing engine for large data sets and for surfaces. You just don't have the functionality. You can't pan around. It takes it much longer to process, and it's much more unstable. It tends to crash a lot. I haven't had that issues in TBC. There's still some drafting functionality that is being improved that will, get better and better. But the field to finish side of it, I don't think there's really any downside to using TBC at this point.
Right on.
That's really the three samples that I have there. Just showing that the end result for TBC was essentially the same as what you would get in Civil 3D. It is much more stable, like I mentioned.
So a couple of I guess I've got another question for you while I have you here. First of all, thanks for presenting. Another question too, I guess getting back, so your company SPS, what exactly does it do in regards to, we're talking about field to finish today and templates and stuff like that. That's very relatable,
Yeah.
Power Hour, to what you do as a company?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I've got a broad experience in survey, but what I primarily focus on is Trimble and Civil 3D. And, if you've got existing templates that you're using in Civil 3D and need help getting that stuff converted over to Trimble, help with that, creating feature code libraries and code books and reference materials for survey crews, and just kind of in general, any survey activity that has a process can be documented and improved in most cases. That's really what I try to do with companies that I work with, is just help them get more efficient and more productive. If you're doing the same things over and over and everybody is doing it the same way, then it's easy for anybody to jump into any process and still be productive and not lose ground.
Yeah, so if I'm like a TBC or Civil 3D user or both, I could reach out to you and say, hey, I've got 50 survey crews and 20 office staff, and I need to really figure out a streamlined workflow.
Yeah,
you're the guy to call?
Yeah, absolutely. I do have a national CAD standard, Civil 3D and Trimble Business Center build to finish package that would include, kind of everything that you would need for a survey company.
Nice.
Or it can be custom made to a specific client or a specific project that you're working on.
Perfect. And I guess one last point to mention is your contact information was on the slide back on the PowerPoint. So if any of you do want to reach out to Joe and kind of inquire. Thanks. I also struggle with English. I also struggle with English. You can reach out to Joe on his contact information there, and I'm sure you'd be more than happy to help people out there.
Yep, absolutely.
Perfect. So that kind of covers all the demonstration. We've got another poll I think we'll throw up in kind of conclusion to seeing all the cool stuff in TBC we had to present today. And as well, we'll do some more, some resource tips for you, show some additional, let's see here. We'll get that set up. Bear with us for a second. Always transition here. We've got 3 people and 3 laptops. It's a little too much for us to handle right now. So let's get that on presenter view. So some extra resource information. First of all, just want to mention next month's Power Hour, we do have topics set up for this, and I think it's an exciting one that a few people will be interested in for sure, and that's TBC for machine control. So a lot of you, and Sophie mentioned it today in her demonstration, you might not know why we have that machine control tab in TBC. So next month's Power Hour, we're going to dive into that and explain kind of what that ribbon is used for and how maybe you as a surveyor using TBC already might benefit from using the machine control functionality. So we're going to have Brian Sykes and Joe Blecka present on that. And just a little background for those of you, Joe Blecka, who has presented several times on the past TBC Power Hours and done a fantastic job, is now the new product manager for TBC. So you're going to see him a lot more on these Power Hours, and he's going to be presenting. So we're excited to have him on board with the Trimble Business Center team. Some resource information. We do have the community page. It's been going for a few months now, and I have seen a lot of people start to post questions and get on and be active there, and I'm really happy to see that. So please continue to use that webpage, ask questions, comments on features. Maybe you want to see an enhancement in TBC or something to be very useful to you. That's a great resource page. As well as our YouTube videos, always adding more. Plan on adding a few more this month, next month. And just a lot of good resource information. And once again, if you are somebody out there who's on the webinar right now who hasn't or isn't a TBC user and you want to get it out and try it out, see what all the different functionality that's involved in the software, I urge you to go on to Trimble.com and contact or find a local Trimble dealer. And if not, you can answer the poll here as well, and we can have one contact you and make it less effort in the end for you. So if you are interested in being contacted, just click yes, and we'll get your local dealer to contact you. As well, some other information. TBC has a whole whack of tutorials which have data sets provided with them, so you can use those as a kind of instructional way to find out more about TBC and what you can do. So there's things like how to use feature coding, how to do the baseline processing, traverse or network adjustment, a lot of good information there. And so I urge those, even existing users, to check those out and maybe find something that you didn't know about. So in saying that, let's answer some more questions, because there is quite a few good ones that came up. Mark, you asked, I missed the group page where I can get that information. So you're looking at, well, I'll just scroll back here a couple slides. So there is, if you're looking for just general information, you can go to the Trimble Community, Trimble Business Center page.
You can't see that.
Oh, I can't see it right now.
Oh, there
Okay,
There we go. There we go. So that first link there, Mark, is the one you can go to. There's a lot of other good pages. You can go onto the YouTube site or TBC survey playlist, and there's a ton of videos there to check out. So a lot of good resources.
There's additional links on my website too, surveyprogramsolutions.com.
There you go. You can check out Joe's website, and he's got some good stuff, especially on like templates and field definition and CAD standards, things like that nature.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. All right, a couple of other good questions. So Carrie asked, how can I find out about TBC feature information, things like what is in base, complete, and advanced versions of TBC. So I guess one thing to state that I should have stated probably at the start, a lot of the things we showed today, essentially everything except for the drafting templates is included in TBC base, complete, and advanced, so all three versions. The drafting side of TBC is a separate module that can be added onto those versions, and it's called the advanced drafting module. And so how we name those, essentially, the module part of it is kind of an encompassing workflow. So the advanced drafting has all the features you need to set up drafting templates and plot out from TBC. And likewise, a scanning module, for instance, has all the tools you need to take in point cloud data and do some registration, adjustments, classification, and things like that. Let's see, here's another good question there that came up. Alex asked, will there be an advanced corridor modeling webinar? For example, rural divided highway with crossovers and frontage roads. That's almost like a webinar part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of thing. But yes, we'd like to show a little bit more on the corridor functionality in TBC. So hopefully we can jump into that in the near future and show you some additional features and how you can do that kind of work in TBC. Mark asked, is Trimble planning on coming up with a manual anytime soon? So are you looking in a manual for TBC on how to use it, like just a general, maybe a PDF on all the things TBC? I guess some clarification is needed there, Mark.
Mark, if that's like the objective that you want and just like the tutorials that you have access to in the help documentation are actually very useful, and they're very useful in it's a hands-on way that you can learn the software so that you can learn different tips and tricks as to, or at least learn new commands as to what they can do for you. And the tutorials are really good for that.
I agree with Sylvie there. The tutorials are like, instead of having a 300-page manual, it's broken up into kind of individual workflows. So Mark, if you're interested in a specific workflow, I would just look at the tutorial and find which one is applicable to that, and it'll go over a lot of the tools and different functionality you can use in TBC for that.
And they're updated fairly frequently.
Yeah, we're always adding new ones. I think the last one we added was a tutorial on Create Togo and kind of the cadastral workflow and some of the tools in TBC that are useful for that.
And I can say personally, as a QA tester, I go through them quite often, so I make sure that they're updated.
Perfect. So Abdul asked a question about getting shapes and features from a Esri database into TBC. So we do have that capability, Abdul. What you would require is the GIS module. It's an add-on to TBC. Any of the versions of TBC it will add on to. And what that allows you to do is connect to a geodatabase and actually map that feature information from the geodatabase into TBC, and we can automatically create feature code libraries based on that information. So very useful if that if that GIS workflow is what you need. And then from there, if you collect survey data in the field and process the features in TBC, you can also transfer that data via TBC to the Geo database and see it in programs such as ArcGIS. I do want to say thanks to Greg and Dan, who both kind of called me out on and helped me out, I guess, with a couple of statements we made about MicroStation before. So, for instance, Greg said one of the ways that he uses or gets data into MicroStation is by DXF. So we do have a DXF exporter in TBC that'll handle things like lines and polygons and points. The downside to that is you lose a lot of the feature and attribute information. But if you are just looking for that strict point, line feature information and symbols, that will go across into MicroStation. And Dan also made a good point of if you want to take existing sheet layouts in MicroStation and bring it into TBC, what you can do, you can, well, if you save it as a DWG file, it'll come across, but if you have just DGN files, you can import those into TBC and actually create a block from the sheet layout and then use that block to insert into a sheet view in TBC and then go plotting from there. So definitely you can do it. That step might not be as easy as just importing a DWG and getting layouts, but the functionality is there. So I think that's most of the questions. And it looks like we got some more. So
there's one about dynamic text up there, and I wasn't sure. Is text dynamic text styles? Is there option to make it dynamic, so it scales up and down as you change your plot scale?
If you change your plot scale, like through the project settings in TBC, that will change it. But there is no like specific like change on the fly kind of thing. A plan view change on the fly like Civil 3D.
But it does actually change as you change scales.
Next one we have. There's some other questions. Let's see here. That's kind of a loaded question that Ed asked, but I'll take it anyway. So is TBC becoming more robust, or and is there still a need for Trimble RealWorks? So I guess the best way to answer that is two ways, Ed. Yes, TBC is becoming more robust, and I think we're going to always continue to become more robust. And every software release, we're adding more functionality, and we're going to continue to do that for a long time. But in answer to regards to RealWorks, I think RealWorks still has a very, very intricate part in the scanning workflow. So as TBC is our survey software, we were tailoring it towards the surveyor who's using point clouds, while RealWorks has a lot of additional functionality, especially if you're doing things like modeling or you're doing tank analysis and a lot of extra scanning workflows that go outside of what a typical surveyor does. So they both have their place in the software environment. I see any other questions, guys, before we end? I guess we're a couple minutes over. Maybe we'll take one or two more. It looks like Jason has one. Let's see, it's a long question, so give me a second to read this. So this is in regards to Terra model. So is anyone looking at being able to use X-line horizontal alignment like you can in Terra model? We recently have the ability to do elevate objects and points to a surface in TBC, which is correct. You can do that in TBC, and that was something we took from Terra model. The X-line, I'm not exactly sure that was. I'm not, to be honest, everyone, I'm not a Terra model user myself. I have some knowledge, but I'm
assuming it's cross-section.
Yeah, it must be. So Jason, maybe send me an email and we can get some clarity on what it is you're looking for the X-line, and if we do or don't have that in TBC, or maybe something similar. And then one last question I guess we'll take, and then we can call it a day, from Yermek, is how to calculate static measurements with TBC. So when you say static, maybe some clarity, Yermek, on that. What do you mean by static measurements? Is that for GNSS static data, or are we talking just standard dimension or inverse measurements? Maybe just provide some quick clarity if you can in the chat window. I know there's some lag probably between the the data transfer, so we'll give it some time. If you're not able to provide that, maybe send me an email after this, and we can get some clarification on what you mean by static measurements. But if it is regards to GNSS, we have a robust GNSS static baseline processor in TBC, and there's a lot of videos and information out there where you can find out more. So I just want to say thanks to Sophie and Joe today for presenting. It was a good power hour, and I think it's very educational for everybody who was involved today. Anything you guys want to say before we call it a day?
Thanks for having me.
No, I think we're good.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone again, and hopefully we'll see you next month's power hour, and happy surveying.